Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first episode with Panolicano and a wellness coming at ya.
That's a great introduction. That was great.
Wow, wow, that just felt like it just spoke right through me.
Okay, so I think this has been a long time coming. We've been grappling with how to appropriately communicate to our community,
For
village,
sure.
tribe, fellow humans.
Fellow beings,
Yes.
fellow blessed beings. Absolutely.
And we found that our conversations are where we feel the warmest, we feel most ourselves, we feel connected.
For
Um,
sure.
and
And the most inflow, I think. The
Mhm.
most inflow. It is easy to speak to
Yeah,
one another.
yeah. So
Yeah,
sharing our conversation and our sisterhood is something that is important
absolutely.
for us because 2020 has been interesting. Yeah.
Yes. And like the biggest withstander, I think, has been community. Has the only system that has not toppled, right,
Yeah.
has been community or communing.
Yes.
Like that one has not
Conversation.
been dismantled.
Correct.
100%.
Correct. So to be in
Yeah.
flow with the year, we're going to share our conversation. And I think one of the biggest promptings or questions that we have explored together, but not necessarily broadcast, is some of the outstanding lessons that you have learned through 2020. And what that
Mm-hmm.
feels and looks and sounds and even tastes like. Yeah, and I think just beginning from the beginning, right? How did you enter 2020 from what we thought was a frightening 2019 and then plonk into 2020 and everything shifted. So yeah, maybe starting from the beginning, what did you enter this new year with, or ideas, wishes, goals, energies? Yeah.
So I think what I'd like to do is just let everyone know that this is our second take. So this is a conversation we've had before. And now having this conversation again, this feels, the flavor is quite like, I'm thinking about completely different things now. And, you know, I actually can't even remember what I said the first time. But
Good.
when I think now about how I entered into 2020, yeah, when we entered into 2020, I don't know. I think I entered with a lot more fear than I give myself credit for having feared. You know what I mean? Like, I actually think actually, when I look back, especially at around January time, early January, like the 10th of January, like the 12th of January, like there was a lot of fear there. And like a lot of worry about, oh my word, is this year going to be like last year? You know, is it going to be as sucky or as like frightening as like, you know, is it going to be as bad as it was last year? And if it is, I'm terrified. I'm terrified of what's going to happen. I'm terrified that I'm not going to be able to do or be strong enough for it all. You know, I don't think, if it's really bad, I don't think I'm going to be strong enough. That's what I thought, actually, come to think about it. Like, and boy, was I wrong. And I'm so happy. I'm so grateful that I was incredibly wrong about that fact. Like, all the fear was for naught. And yes, we had plenty to be petrified about this year. Like, plenty. But it was in a way that I would have never even dreamt of. Like, yeah, the fear that I thought I was experiencing was, and the things that happened, they didn't even correlate. Like, I was afraid of, like, oh, not, getting a job, not making money, mental health issues. Is it going to keep happening this year? I was afraid of that. And this year, no. Yes, like employment came into the mix, but there were so many other things that potentially could have garnered me, like pretty immobile with fear.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
Do you think there was a tipping point where the fear stopped playing such a big role?
100%. Absolutely. Like when the world went to shit, it was like, fear is going to get you nowhere. You got to move now. Like, you got to mobilize your mind, mobilize your body, mobilize your creative spirit. That is where, like, I don't know, flourishing is going to lie, because we can't move out of our houses. We can't see people. All these things that we potentially would have fallen back on now did not exist. So, I don't know, you just had self to rely on, and you and God, and that was it. And that was like not as scary as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So fear was something I really came into this year with, and I'm so happy that has changed. Like, I did not think it was going to be this way. I didn't think that by the end of this year, or on the tail end of this year, that I'd feel so light and so, like, wow, resolute, and like, I don't know, things are looking brighter.
Yeah.
Feeling like there's a future, feeling like there's something to look forward to. I would have never thunk that. And that's something I'm so excited about.
Yeah.
Very, very happy about.
Yeah, I think
you.
I think we share the coming into 2020 with a little bit of fear. I think the first take we did of this, I had forgotten some things actually.
Yeah.
I had worked throughout December in 2019, and in early Jan, like you were saying, I had been wrapping up a project that hadn't gone so well, and I had been in this like holding pattern or cycle of projects that just don't finish well. So they start kind of okay and exciting, and then by the time it's the end, it kind of feels energetically like a shit show. And I was beginning to think, I'm the common denominator in these projects. Am I the fuck up? And really a heaviness coming into the year, and feeling not just physically tired because I'd worked throughout the holidays and had gone into the year having to finish up the job, but really feeling, am I good at what I do? Do I understand what I do? Do I want to continue doing what I do? And just a lot of like what felt like existential questions. And I had had this ritual for the last 3 years of kind of picking words, because I'm a words person, so kind of picking words that kind of come to me when I'm deciding what the new year was going to be about. And I remember journaling power, pleasure, pain, and being quite excited or curious about exploring those three words in 2020. And in the previous year, it had been expansion, experience, excellence, and education. And boy, oh boy, those words play a role in my life, and pleasure, pain, and what did I say? Pleasure, pain, and
pain and oh gosh, now I've also lost it. Sorry. Pleasure, pain, and power? No. Was
yeah.
it power? No.
Ding, ding, ding,
Was
ding.
it power? Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
That really has, and I suppose I created the energy by writing those words down, you know. But that's really been something I came into the year wanting to explore, like, what do I consider pain and what do I consider pleasure in my life? Am I investing in pleasure? And also my relationship between feeling pain, sad, disappointed, frustrated, and what am I going to do with that? I think I had gotten to a point in January where I was tired of being disappointed in myself. I was just exhausted by it. And I thought to myself, am I going to always be here, or is there something I can do with this pain? Is there a way of transforming it to be something? Because I can't always be perpetually disappointed because I didn't know enough when this thing started, and now that it's ended, I know more. And just as you said, feeling quite scared, you know, feeling quite fearful. I remember making big decisions after that said project that I don't want to do this anymore, or I need a break, or maybe I've been making a mistake this whole time, you know. And there's nothing that kind of knocks the wind out of your sails than thinking to yourself, have I been wrong this whole time in terms of what I've chosen energetically to do here, you know? And really coming in to 2020 with a crisis on my hands, an inner one, you know. And as you said, what has excited me about 2020 is that it showed me that I need to look at where I'm investing. My power kind of lies at where I'm investing. If I invest in pain, then my power is going to be kind of cloaked in pain. If I'm investing in pleasure, then my power is kind of cloaked in pleasure, and that I have a real choice to make. And so the word responsibility, although it's got nothing to do with the PPPs, really started to emerge when the world went to shit. And I didn't think responsibility would be as freeing as it feels now.
Right. Oh my word, what a powerful thing. What a powerful thing you just said there. Oh my word. And you know, when we were discussing this the other day, I was like, I feel like there's something about responsibility that has become so warped, right? Like we think it's this huge thing that is like, and of course it is. I mean, if we're taking responsibilities for ourselves, it's this massive undertaking that requires a lot of hard work and hard digging.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, is it freeing to be like, this is the only thing that you need to take care of right here.
Yeah.
And take care of it like ultimate, like you're about to die, take care of it. And that is the most freeing part. And taking part or taking care of every single facet and taking real responsibility for all those facets. And I think sometimes the lie or the fallacy that we tell ourselves is that we are self-reliant in certain areas when we really aren't. When we're seeking the approval of others, for instance, that is not taking responsibility for our own happiness or for our own decision-making process or our own, inner joy, inner creation of joy and peace. When we rely on the opinions of others or on the, people making us, or like the opinions of others in the sense like people approving what we do or not.
Yeah.
If we rely on that, that's not taking responsibility for our own happiness. And when we relinquish that responsibility from other people, and we take that responsibility on our own, it is so freeing. It makes us so that anything is possible. We don't have to rely on somebody else to give that to us.
Yeah.
So sorry, I interjected there, but
no. But
responsibility is so much more freeing.
We've spoken about responsibility, and I think you're right in terms of it being warped, because, for instance, one of the first places I had to take responsibility for was my attachment to my pain narrative. For a long time, I feel like I had a marriage there. There was something about being constantly disappointed or constantly failing or frustrated or in a loop that I actually was attracted to, because it felt like if I'm constantly disappointed, then I'm in control. I know the deal. I'm going to cry. I'm going to feel bad about myself. I'm probably going to break out all over my skin. I'm probably going to look like crap for a couple of months. I'm going to recoil. I know all these things. I do it all the time. The steps are kind of written out for me. And there's this thick safety that I found comfort in with my pain story, right? And one of the things I had to dismantle was like, do you want to stay married there? Do you want to be in communion with your pain story? Or do you want to look at your pleasure story? Because figuring out what gives me pleasure was a lot more of growing up than being in relationship with my pain.
The pain, for sure.
Because the minute I had to identify or say out loud what makes me as this personality in this lifetime, what gives me pleasure, I have to take responsibility automatically and be honest with myself. And let the chips fall where they may, because I might find things that I've never discovered about myself. And one of the painful parts of 2020 was understanding that I have this toxic relationship with pain. And God is so kind and so merciful, because what actually happened is that in discovering that I'm in relationship with my pain story, I realized how much I burdened my relationships, because everybody had to kind of tiptoe or minimize themselves, because Kutlwano's in relationship with her, oh, I'm gonna fuck up anyway, or oh, I'm gonna mess this up, or I'm not good enough for this. And then what tends to happen is I don't have then authentic responses. I don't have people authentically speaking into my life, because they're afraid to crush me. They're afraid to pull me away from this pain story that I myself will not pull myself away from. And once I took responsibility to start looking at my pleasure story, what started to happen is it started to fix and mend my relationships, whether romantic, whether family, whether friendships. It started to fix it, because then people could speak to me now. They could see that, okay, she is investing now in things that make her happy. So yeah, Kutlwano, maybe that thing that you do and you do that other thing and you do that, I don't know, that doesn't feel healthy for us and I don't like it. You know, and it was really hard because a lot of it came from family, which is a trigger point for me, and allowed me to see that because my grip was so tight on my grief, and grief had become my friend, I had actually not allowed people to be their full selves around me. And I didn't want relationships like that anymore. And I realized that even in my work environment, even in these said projects that I say are not doing well, that was the energy I was also bringing into the projects, a sense of grief. You talk to me while I'm producing something and I'm so tired and this thing, and I'm so stressed and it's my tight grip around grief, because that's something I know how to control, is being sad. I know how to do that, or being exhausted or frustrated. So responsibility has played such a gentle role, actually, if I were to pay it like that, to be like, hi, hello, you know. So yeah, 20.
And what a loving thing to do for oneself, hey?
Yeah.
for sure. It's such a loving thing to do. And I think something that you said right there about being super attached to one's narrative, I think has been a great theme for this year. And I think in all different spheres of life that human beings are experiencing, the narrative around things is either dismantling, turning upside down, completely being eradicated, or being revealed, right? And I think we would be remiss to not take that example that is happening on a cosmic universal level and bring it down here into our own cosmos right here. And I think for me also, dismantling some of the narratives that I have been really attached to for a long time, not even being able to like recognize that it was a narrative that I was attached to, and this year being revealed and saying like, hey, Gob, giving even myself an opportunity to say you can change it. Like, you don't have to be the person who, I don't know, gets chronically mentally ill every single year. That does not have to be your story. That doesn't have to be the way that things go for you every time. Just because, something happens or does not happen, which has been really the pattern over the past few years. Nothing ever happens for it to trigger, a depressive episode or an anxiety spell that lasts for months. And this year, being able to unravel myself and untangle myself from that storyline has been such a freeing experience. And, I just echo like what you're saying about taking responsibility, really identifying perhaps certain triggers. Like I had a beautiful meetup with our cousin Tabang on the weekend, and I was explaining to her that divorcing or being separate from my authenticity has been the blind spot that I never knew was a trigger for me. This whole time, I never knew that being separate from my authenticity or not feeling like I can be authentic in relationships, in a working environment, with my relationship to the divine, anywhere. If I feel like I cannot, be authentic in my expression, be authentic in my relation, be authentic in all spheres, that for me has always been a trigger for a depressive episode. Because if I cannot be myself, then who am I really? And I never, it was so powerful. I couldn't believe that was a thing, like for instance, I get really upset if I don't feel like I can express myself fully to somebody. Like if my feelings, I can't express my feelings. Like if, for instance, I'm frustrated or I'm really happy or I'm, a bit anxious, but if I cannot express that to somebody that I'm in a relationship with, I feel divorced from my authenticity. And it creates a kind of like spirally thing that happens on the inside. And I feel like I feel like a shaken up can. I cannot get it out there. And that feels like it causes an implosion that is a catastrophe. And it's like, what a light bulb moment to be connected back to self and feel like that is a narrative now that does not have to be part of me anymore. I do not have to, be so connected, like you said, to the pain story of depression and anxiety in that way. I don't think I'll ever be completely devoid of it. I think it is still a little shadow buddy that, just lurks in the background, and it's fine. It's just part of my shadow self, and it's fine, but it does not have to be the cloak that I wear every single moment, every day. It is not part of the very fiber of my being anymore. Now it is just something that I need to be aware of. And I think something that, like, being aware of the different triggers, being aware that, okay, potentially here's a very slippery slope to anxiety. Finances, for instance, was a big one. Being able to financially contribute to my life. Woo! potential slippery slope that if I did not check it out, watch it, try to change the story around that could have been a very slippery slope into the deep pits that are depression. And it has happened many, many, many times before. And this year it did not happen. And the whole time I was bracing myself, like just waiting for this dark cloak to just like catch me, and it didn't. And I was so shook. I was so shook that it did not happen. Like, whoa, okay, so you can feel a little bit of, anxiety and not be immobilized by it. This is a real life thing that has happened for you in this year, and it's amazing and incredibly freeing. You don't have to be the person that is immobilized with anxiety, which, I don't know, I could almost like cry at how insane that feeling is, of like being, for the meanwhile, free from that, because it is so all consuming and so, it's a seed. Depression and anxiety are seeds. If we don't transmute it properly, if we don't use it properly, it can be such a thief of time. So I entered into this year incredibly afraid, and I'm so grateful that I have all my faculties with me, and that I've identified some incredible triggers that have just given, I don't know, made the ground a little fertile for me to work on these things, work on these areas of authenticity that I know are very important to me. I need to feel creative. I need to feel expansive. I need to feel freedom. I need to feel these things in order to exist. I think everybody does. And when we do not feel this, we, I don't know, can feel like a cup has been put over us and our light cannot shine. When our light shines, it flickers and dies. And I do not want that to happen to me or anybody for that matter. So, that's
I mean, you touched on something
for me this year.
So great that's come up for me this year as well, is acceptance. There's a measure of having to observe your reaction or my reaction to my grief story. As you said, it's always going to be the dark side of me. It's just this, I don't know, insane attachment to sadness, for me, and being disappointed and beating tragedy to the punch, like Brene Brown says. And one of the things this year that has freed me is that I'm just observing it. I'm not trying to fix her. I think I spent a large amount of time in my early 20s trying to fix her, trying to put a plaster, trying to put her in surgery, if I read enough books, then maybe I won't be attached to that thing so much. If I attend enough courses, if I remain busy enough, then I don't have to even recognize that I have a relationship with incessant sadness, And I think this year was the first time I watched it, felt really compassion for myself and like, no, you don't have to do that, and I'm so sorry you feel like you have to do that. And not try to fix it, but try to see how I can build an ecosystem that still has it there. So for instance, if I find myself going back to that relationship, it's now just a signpost to say, maybe you're not being your authentic self, or maybe that's a trigger that's presenting itself, because why is your default, this is going to be a mess, or I'm never going to be good enough for that thing. As soon as that narrative comes in, now I'm humbled by it. Now I'm like, wait, okay, trigger point. What's going on here? What has brought this on? And I think I've said this to you before, that now 100%. I'm using curiosity more than anxiety. So now I'm asking, like, what was it? Was it because that person looked at me like that? Was it because the sentence was phrased like that I felt like, oh, I'm not going to make it anyway, or this person doesn't believe in me, or I'm not heard, you know, or seen. And my freedom has actually come in not trying to fix that, but trying to sit inside of it or sit alongside of it and say, oh, my baby, is that the 8-year-old? Is that the 12-year-old? Is that the 2-year-old? Is that it's okay? It's okay. This is all you thought we knew, you know, and that's made me understand myself so much more by trying not to fix it. You know, so acceptance is not what I thought it was. I think to a large degree, I thought the word acceptance had a lot of like fixing and DIYing in there.
Patchwork Adams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch on
it's
light
just like,
because I'm fading.
Me too. I'm so glad you said that. Okay, I'm also going to switch on. Okay.
Okay, my light is not very bright, but we do what we can.
Yes,
your light is so bright.
Does this help a little bit?
Yes, it does.
Is it? And it's so far away. Okay. But anywho, yeah. So acceptance is like, it's not the way that we thought it was. I think something that we and I have spoken about often is a lot of the things that we have either been running away from or avoiding, and also maybe just didn't even have a strong grasp of, that we have experienced this year, looks nothing like what we thought it was going to.
Yeah.
Like we said, responsibility does not look like what we thought it was going to. Acceptance, the flavor of acceptance is not the flavor that we had expected it to feel like.
Yeah.
And I definitely have to like echo what you're saying, that acceptance, you know, what we thought acceptance was never what we're experiencing at the moment. Especially in this realm, let me say. I think naturally in life, as human beings, we're still quite young. There's a lot of things we still need to accept. But I think when we accept the first thing, or when we take responsibility for the first thing, or the first massive things, it makes doing the next kinds of big things a lot easier.
Yeah.
Or, you know, consume it in a manner that feels like we can do this, you know, like taking responsibility for, I don't know, something else humongous in our lives one day. Maybe it's a blind spot right now, but in the, you know, as time goes by, we'll be able to like, oh shit, okay, Kopano, you can't actually be doing this all the time. Maybe you need to like take a step back and, you know, look at this, you know, take responsibility here. This is not the world's fault, or, you know, whatever it is. And I think, I don't know, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. That's another delicious part about this year, even though it's been so full of shit. Oh, the fuckery that has been happening. But it is, I've never felt this grateful in my entire life.
Yeah.
For absolutely everything that has happened. Like the growth I've experienced, the expansion, and I feel like growth in the expansive kind of way, where being able to accept the ebb and flow of life, the ups and downs of life, being able to just accept that very fact has been such a freeing thing. That, you know, people come and they go. That, you know, the sun rises and it sets. And it's such a, beforehand it felt different. Gratitude felt different. And now gratitude feels like every single cell. I don't know, maybe it's because of the feeling of being so much more connected to the divine, feeling like I'm much more connected to source. The gratitude that I feel is so, I mean, like the oxygen, I'm so grateful for, you know, the
Mm.
way that the wind blows, I'm so grateful for, you know, the molecules in the soil, I'm so grateful for, you know, all these like things that I wouldn't have even noticed before, really. Or I did notice it, but it's just like, oh, thank you for water, Lord. You know, thank you for food. Now it's like, yo, God, thank you for carbon atoms in this banana. You know, thank you for potassium. What a great, oh, what a wonderful thing. You know what I mean? Like where it's on a molecular level. So yeah, the gratitude feels very different this year. We have so much to be grateful for. If we have made it out of 2020 with our lives, that is the biggest thing in the world, the biggest thing that could have ever happened. If we can wake up every day, what a gift. Like, what a gift.
Yeah, and I think
so many people
have not
had that opportunity this year. And
yeah, and I think there's something to be said.
You know, and it's so grateful to be here.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said about how much pain the world finds itself in. That kind of wakes you up to what gives you pleasure. And I think that's me trying to echo as well what you're saying, is that I've had people close to me, and I've recently lost my grandmother, who's my grandmother, who is, you know, the only, you know, mother or central figure I've ever had. And watching her pain, because she was quite chronically ill, awakened me to that, well, you've got to invest in what gives you pleasure now, because nothing is promised. We're sort of on shifting plates at the moment, and no one's in control over what pain is going to come or what pain is going to present itself. What we are in control over is giving ourselves permission to have that pleasure, even amidst the pain. You know, that's something Uplano has, especially amidst the pain. And one of the surprising things this year is, even when I was going through my pain and my anxiety of taking care of a chronically ill family member, is I was able to identify that I don't want to feel down like this all the time. It's okay for me to accept that today is not a good day or it's not a good week. But since my life is going and time equates my life, I have to find some kind of crumb of what makes me happy. And I think that's where I echo the sentiment of the gratitude, is that the cup of tea then becomes the, oh, thank you, Divine Mother, for this cup of tea, or thank you that my family member has had a better day today and is not 100%. In so much pain, you know. And I think without gratitude, sometimes being in the pain as well can leave you quite lonely. You know, I found when I couldn't get out of it, that the isolation was just amazing, you know. And 100%. Yeah, it just feels like you can't get out of it, and you sort of have to break it down to the point that thank you for the molecules in the banana to to get out of it, and know that I'm making a decision towards my pleasure. And that's the power I have, is to say thank you for the banana, even though I am dealing with something that is humongous, you know. And that is, and I don't know what to do. And I think compassion is another one that's been gratitude's friend this year for me, is learning self-compassion, you know. And I'm finding like a lot of people that I follow on social media, or that I find interesting people, the theme of compassion is just so big at the moment, of self-compassion. Because if I can't show it to myself, then you best believe my relationships are suffering. So absolutely. Yeah, I think, but also gratitude is not what I thought it was going to be. For me, I think gratitude used to be, I have to do it in order for me to have, if I'm spiritual, then I'm grateful. You know what I mean? Like, if you are a spiritual person, then you need to exercise the tool of gratitude, and it became
gratitude
something on my
militant
lips. And that's not what gratitude is.
Oh my word, that is
it's not, I mean, we're going to make another video about spiritual bypassing, because I think that falls into there.
That oh yes, please, we have to do that. Put on our list of things to do. And also, like, yeah, okay, anyway, sorry, yes, gratitude isn't the flavor that you thought it was going to be.
Not at all, because now it doesn't feel like something I have to do. It feels like just being, I find myself grateful. So it's almost like I've had to invest in just being, you know, and I never, I mean, I've read Buddhist things about just being present, being instead of doing. I have an intellectual grasp of what that means. But for the first time this year, because nothing was popping, nothing, work, business, family, nothing was moving. There's a stagnancy that I think everybody just cannot describe.
Yeah.
And in that being, in that sitting still, because nothing else is going on, I then automatically started being grateful. Well, at least I'm sitting in the sun.
Right? It felt like almost a default, right? And I think there's something to be said, Gano, about faking it until you make it so that it becomes your default. Because I think I felt exactly like you about gratitude, that it's something you just had to do for you to get to the point
you need to manifest, and if you are not grateful, then you can't manifest.
Exactly. Meanwhile, now it feels so innate. It actually feels like the default, because now it feels like, I don't know, if I'm getting up, how can I not be grateful? You know, like I really am, like, genuinely happy that the sun has risen. I'm so flippant, like, genuine happy. I don't have to search for that gratitude.
Yeah.
It is already here. You know what I mean? And sometimes there definitely have been moments where I had to search for that gratitude. And that's where that little practice of going right down, you know, right down to the nitty gritty of like, wow, this banana feels really good. Or like, whew, that, you know, gulp of water went down the most correct type. That felt flippin' delicious. You know, or like, wow, that wind hit so right there. Oh, just get a little, you know what I mean? Like, just those little things where it doesn't cost anything. Nobody has to be present. You know, nothing has to change for you to find the gratitude in the little things. And now I'm grateful that that's a tool that is in this toolbox that feels so natural to do. There are many, many, many things that don't feel natural to do. But, you know, searching, or not searching, but feeling innately grateful for things is something I'm so grateful is present here. Because, I don't know, the very hard days have been made a lot better by exercising gratitude, you know. Yeah,
I think
boy, have there been many hard days.
Our second prompting question was, what is the change you think others have seen in you?
See, that's something I don't do well. I don't know. What are okay, I'm going to echo what you have said about me. I think, because I don't know what other people have seen different.
And why should we?
I know what I felt different. Like, I think that I'm a lot lighter to be around. I think that a lot of people have noticed that. Like, I am not a dark cloud that sucks out all the light when I walk into the room. And maybe I never, yeah. Anyway, I think that that's the huge difference that people have experienced around me. But I'm a lot lighter.
Yeah.
Like, and I've experienced some of the darkest things I could have ever experienced this year. I won't even front about that. But the lightness has still prevailed. You know, the lightness. And that is something
Ease.
I'm so, the ease, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that, honestly, I can only equate to being connected with the divine. That's all. In my own strength, there's no way on God's green earth that the cloak, the very heavy weight that was on me could have been lifted. I could not have done that on my own strength. I was not able to do in my own strength. So, yeah, that is the only thing I can equate that to. So I think that's a really big one. I feel more attractive.
Ooh.
on all levels, physically, emotionally, energetically. That's the one. Energetically more attractive. I feel like people want to be in communion with me, which is such a fun thing because I'm such a communion person. You know, I love that. I love to spend time.
Yeah.
So I think that's a massive change that I feel like others have noticed about me. I think, yeah. What are some things that you have noticed about you?
I can echo that because our relationship, I think, in the last 2-3 years has gone through a lot. Wow, my space is really getting dark here.
Yeah. I can still see you fine though. Can you see yourself?
But anyway, we shall continue.
Yes,
I
sure.
think one of the things we've discussed about our relationship is that I think when we came together when we were young, like really young, like kids, there was sort of like a forging of grief. I think we kind of enjoyed our grief stories. We kind of enjoyed being the deep, dark. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think we had a lot of fun.
We really did.
Rebellious.
But I think our relationship is we could go there. We could always go real deep.
And other people couldn't.
Yeah.
I could, you know.
For sure.
But I think that damaged a portion of our relationship as we grew up because it became exhausting to kind of always run to each other in a time of grief and sadness and didn't give each other enough time to celebrate, enough time to be in our light. And there was a codependency starting to build there because we all have, both of us have different triggers, but they are kind of stemmed in the same thing, if that makes
they mirror this, they mirror each other so much, for sure.
And I think this year, because we couldn't see each other like at all, it was divine time for Kutana to do her work, Kopana to do her work. So when we got together and saw the lightness or saw the ease or saw the change, it was like,
you could do this on your own? What the heck? Shit, you didn't need me.
Or like there was more knowledge to share, like, Kopana, how did you do that? X, Y, Z, this, and this. Patong. Wow. And we could really pour authentically into each other. You know, I think you
100.
said it a couple of months ago that we were in a holding pattern in our relationship, and none of us wanted to play those roles anymore. I think we were definitely tired of the roles in our relationship. And I'm so happy that there was enough space for us to put it down and to start again and to be like, hi, Kopan, look, I don't have to be that person for you anymore. And you don't have to be that person for me anymore.
For sure. And for it to be such a loving thing to do, and for it not to feel, I don't know about you, I never felt like it was ever malicious or like, oh no, I'm losing her. Oh no, I'm losing her. Shit. I never ever felt that way.
There were a few points, I must say, in our relationship. I felt like, are we gonna be
breaking up? Yes. Okay, yeah, for sure. I remember that time. That one was rough. That was very scary.
Yeah.
That was very scary. I won't even lie. But I don't know. Behind in the background, we always knew that each other were going to be fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think this time it was necessary.
Yeah.
It was really necessary.
Yeah, I do. You know, I think on my side, if I answer the question,
Yeah.
what I've seen happening in my relationships and what I think people feel, yes, the lightness, I agree with you 100%. But I feel like people can be honest with me. And my relationships are becoming more authentic. I feel like people trust me with myself. So I'm able to say, you know, Kano, this other thing that was happening, I don't like, you know, or you sometimes exhibit this kind of behavior, or I feel let down by that thing that you did. And without them having that back end fear of like, she's going to break like an egg.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember distinctly at my grandmother's funeral, and in our funerals as Black people, it is a week-long procession. Even though to some people's opinion, my grandmother's funeral was short. It was like, you're burying her when? You know? But to most people, it was still 3 or 4 days of family and people and strangers and everyone pouring in, and the resounding. I remember a close friend of the family was whispering to someone else and didn't recognize that I heard, and saying, you know, Kutona's a lot stronger than you think. And I thought, strong? What do they mean by strong? And what I got from that was not strong like Womandla, but like,
you know,
but an inner strength, something about my inner world that people trust that she'll be okay, you know? And I feel like that's starting to echo.
What a compliment.
In a lot of my relationships, even my parental relationships, there is so much trust now. There is so much like, you know what? You have semblances of what you want. So we trust you. And so, and we love you, and go and just do it. You know, and that's something I have been craving, that kind of acceptance in my relationships for years. Because I've felt that either there's a cradling or an inauthenticness or a dishonesty in somehow the way people handle me. But now I know where it's from. I know that it is the fear that she might not take it well, she might break, she might need saving afterwards, she might, because she's so sensitive, because she's so, you know. Now I feel like because I've accepted that shadow part of myself, people feel like they can be honest with me. So if people were to tell me how they see me now, is a lot of inner strength is starting to be exhibited externally, and it's calm and it's stable and it's something that people can rely on. You know, I'm not gonna explode. You know, I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to always be me. You know, so that's one way I would answer that question.
Life is so funny. Like, it's amazing how other people can know so much more about you than yourself. Like, I have always 100% of the time felt that way about you. And it's so fun to hear you say that about yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it is so fun to hear you say that you feel stable. Because for me, you are my stability. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that when I go to Kano, that is a stable place for me to feel safe. And it's so fun to hear you say that you feel that way about yourself inherently.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've always known about you that you are a sensitive but strong human, that nothing, you are unshakable. And it is so divine to hear you say that about yourself. You know, like, you are unshakable. I've always known that about you. I've never even questioned that about you. And for you to arrive at that for your own self is so divine to watch, you know, and to experience, because you believing it for yourself has a very different, you know, flavor to when I just think about that. I think of you in that way, you know.
Okay.
Like when you embody that thing.
Some better light, because I feel
okay.
I'm being swallowed
by the darkness.
Yes. So
okay.
Oh my God. I don't even know.
There it is, right there. There.
There? Oh my God.
We can see your face.
I have to stand.
Better.
Oh my God. I will stand.
okay. But is it like almost 40 minutes?
Yes, it is.
I don't know how much time it is. Yeah. Okay.
You're right. You're right.
Okay.
But I think, okay, if I look at our second prompting, which is, one second, our last prompting was practical tools that have helped you this year. Tools.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Wow. That makes me so excited to even say. I don't know. Let me see. What are some of yours, do you think?
Disclaimer, one of Anna Wellness's pet peeves is for people to speak as lovingly as we spoke, but give no tangible,
things about how to do it.
Like, it's lovely to know that I stand in gratitude and the pain is under the pain and God and the divine. And how do I do that?
Get there. How do you get there? 100%.